A very good evening and welcome to the News at 6, where we get you the day's top developing stories. I'm Tracy Shilshi and let's head across to the headlines first. Shadow over India-Pakistan NSA level talks. Both sides refuse to budge over Sartaj Aziz's proposed meeting with Kashmiri separatists. Rupee falls to two-year low of nearly 66 to $1 in response to the global sell-off across emerging markets. Stock markets react with a fall of nearly 600 points over 2 days. The Gujarat High Court puts a stay on the government's order to make voting mandatory in civic elections. And North and South Korea exchange gunfire along the border. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un orders frontline military units into wartime state. Our top story, a shadow looms large over the upcoming Indo-Pakistan National Security Advisor level talks as both sides stick to their stand over Sartaj Aziz's proposed meeting with Kashmiri separatists. Even as India advised Pakistan against meeting the separatists, Islamabad said talks would go ahead and asked New Delhi not to dictate terms to it.
India has made it clear to Pakistan that a meeting between its NSA Sartaj Aziz and Kashmiri separatist leaders was unacceptable. Pakistan insists that consultations with Hurriyat leaders is a routine affair. India opposes this, saying the forthcoming talks are not on Kashmir but on terror. India also maintains that Hurriyat has no role in the formal dialogue.
India has advised Pakistan yesterday that it would not be appropriate for Mr. Sartaj Aziz to meet with Hurriyat representatives during his visit to India, as it would not be in keeping with the spirit and intent of the UFA understanding to jointly work to combat terrorism. We have also sought confirmation of our understanding of the agenda for the NSA level talks that was conveyed to the Pakistani side on August 18, 2015.
However, Pakistan was quick to react within hours, saying the talks would go ahead as planned and that India could not dictate terms to Pakistan. Saying that Indo-Pak talks were not based on conditional diplomacy, Pakistan also accused India of running away from talks.
Meeting with Kashmiri leaders is common practice before consultations and talks between the two countries whenever they take place.
Why you are telling that you will not be allowed to be a part of that process where India and Pakistan want to discuss Kashmir? Do you think that Kashmiri people are animals, that you will decide their fate?
With both sides sticking to their positions, there is a shadow on the talks. The two NSAs are scheduled to meet in New Delhi on August 23rd. The agenda for the talks was decided when the Prime Ministers of both countries met last month in Ufa in Russia. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And amid the tussle between India and Pakistan over the Kashmiri separatist issue, the Congress has criticized the NDA government over its policy with regard to the NSA level talks with Pakistan. The main opposition party has attacked the Prime Minister, saying that his government has no clear policy in dealing with Pakistan. Meanwhile, BJP is cautious about the centre's strategy over the Pakistan National Security Advisors meeting with the separatists. The party has now left it to the Ministry of External Affairs to take a final call on whether the meeting should be allowed to take place or not. However, it clarified that the focus of the NSA level talks should be on the issue of terrorism. Parties in the valley also are split on meeting of the Pakistani NSA with the separatists.
Why should Modi often try to talk on one side? Because the other side is not ready to talk. Whatever his foreign policy he is trying to do, one by one they are failing.
The government of India, most unfortunately, is making itself a laughing spectacle in its management of talkers even before the talks have started.
What is Hurriyat going to gain? 1 hour talk, what are we going to achieve? Our people are still dying. whether on this side of the border or that side of the border.
What is important is that we are talking. How and when and where we should talk is a secondary question. And so before talking to Hurriyat, after talking to Hurriyat, I think these are not the issues that should forecast our effect.
The agenda of this NSA level talk was finalized in the UFA meeting between the two Prime Ministers. And this NSA meeting is only to talk on terror.
There is no question of a third-party intervention, and possibly on that end, India has issued an advisory to Pakistan to refrain from meeting the Hurriyat leaders. But having said that, the principle is very clear. Talks with terror is not possible.
All right, for more on this, we're joined by our correspondent Vishal Dahiya from the newsroom now. Vishal, looking at this point, the ball is in India's court back again, with Pakistan saying, please do not dictate terms to us. We will meet whoever we wish to. Does it put India in a precarious position or in advantageous position, considering the fact that the international community is seeing that Pakistan is indeed throwing a tantrum?
Well, as of now, yes, you can call it that Pakistan is throwing a tantrum, but India per se is definitely, and so as to say, the Indian government as of now is in a precarious situation as far as the talks with its neighbor is concerned. 1, 2, its image at the international level, and 3, its domestic politics as well. Now, these 3 are different scenarios, but with the center point being the talks between India and Pakistan, and this time around the talks are at the NSA level. Both sides, specifically, India says that, the basic principle of the talks between India and Pakistan has to be the one which was decided in UFA. And in UFA, it was decided that the NSA level talks will focus on terror. Now, the Pakistani side, it seems, is more insistent on meeting with the Hurriyat leaders. The opposition out here in India, has been pointing out one thing since yesterday, is that why has the Indian government been late in responding to the Pakistan stand of meeting Hurriyat first, and then the flip-flop of putting Hurriyat leaders under house arrest and then releasing them after, within few hours. And then a Pakistani side once again, making it clear just a short while ago that India cannot dictate terms to it for the talks between both sides. So obviously, it has now become a very unpleasant mix.
Yes.
Something as unpleasant as definitely this government and definitely the Prime Minister Narendra Modi would not have wanted it to go this way.
Absolutely. And the BJP, of course, saying that it's up to the MEA now to decide on whether the talk should go ahead or not. What is the indication that you're getting?
Well, clearly, with this statement, the BJP doesn't want to be the one jumping the gun as of now. And that's why now, for the official statements, the ruling party is saying that please wait for the MEA's reaction or for the MEA's briefing. But then the ministers who are also, members of the BJP, clearly in the government, Ravi Shankar Prasad, we heard Raju Pratap Rudy as well. The same statement came from Ravi Shankar Prasad yesterday also, that talks can be held, or rather the focus of these talks, that is the NSA level talks proposed on 23rd, 24th, can only and only be on terror as per the UFA agreement. So they're clarifying one thing, but as of now, it seems the government is in sort of a quandary as of now to take a decision of whether or not they should hold talk, if at all Pakistan insists on, its NSA meeting Hurriyat leaders before having a talk with his Indian counterpart.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Vishal Dahiya, thanks so much for joining us with those details. They will keep an eye out on this big story. But on to the other big story we're tracking today. The rupee fell to its 2-year low on Friday in response to a global sell-off across emerging markets. It had an impact on the stock markets too, which saw a fall of nearly 600 points in the last 2 days. The rupee almost hit 66 against the dollar before recovering marginally. Here are the details.
Rupee continues to slump further over fears of a currency war after China's devaluation of yuan. Friday saw rupee fall further, touching almost 66 against the dollar. After closing at 65.54 on Thursday, rupee slumped in early trade on Friday. However, it recovered marginally towards the end. This is a 2-year low for the currency, which has seen a fall of over 3% since China devalued yuan. It had an impact on the stock markets too. After losing over 300 points on Thursday, Sensex shed over 400 points during intraday trade. However, it ended 242 points down by the end of the day. Nifty also shed over 70 points. On Thursday, RBI Chief Raghuram Rajan had allayed fears of the yuan devaluation hitting the economy. However, he reminded that depreciation in the currency due to policy changes is a worrisome trend in the global central banks. His views were also echoed by Japan's finance minister, who warned China against manipulating its currency to its own benefit.
ある日突然日本と政府が介入してくるなんていうのが頻繁に起こると、これはちょいとなかなか我々としても難しい対応を迫られることになりますので。
The dollar too has weakened against other major global currencies for the past few weeks. All eyes are now on the US Federal Reserve, which will announce its interest rates next month. There are doubts if it can safely raise rates amid global economic slowdown worries. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, for more on this story, we're joined in studio this evening by Shubhamoy Bhattacharya, who is the deputy editor at the Indian Express. Shubhamoy, thanks so much for joining us. The fall of this rupee, could we just attribute it only to the devaluation of the yuan?
Yeah, because this is not something which has been done because of any problems in the Indian economy. The Indian balance sheet is not being discussed, is not the issue at concern here. It is basically a response to the weakness that is happening with the yuan.
All right. What are the indications then? Could we see a further slide of the rupee? Because Raghuram Rajan said that while the yuan devaluation was not that big of a concern, further ahead, if other countries devalue their currencies as well, that could perhaps create a further problem for the Indian rupee.
Yeah, but essentially what would it mean is that the Indian rupee would be sliding because, again, as I said, because of the fact that the yuan is both part of our 36 currency exchange rate that we peg our currency against, as well as the 6 currency, which basically means that the yuan has a very strong influence on which way the Indian rupee would move. So certainly, I mean, the Indian rupee, one could tend to expect that if the currency volatility continues, the rupee could tend slightly become weaker. But of course, on the flip side, what I would find out is that the current account deficit of India is actually improved, and it's expected to be even better this year. So if that stays, despite all the weaknesses, then definitely I would not be expecting the rupee to keep on moving badly towards 70.
All right. So what you're saying is that 67, 68, is that a value that we could be seeing in the near future?
Well, it's this way that the rupee would move, and to what extent moves, that's not important. The question is how gradually it moves.
Okay.
A disorderly movement is what the market fears most.
Okay.
Because supposing if exporters want to book contracts, if importers want to book contracts, now they would not be comfortable if the rupee starts behaving erratically. So for the central bank, that is the issue at concern rather than where the rupee settles. Because that really doesn't, because that can change after some days due to some other factors. But what does affect the market and creates problem is a sudden movement. That is not something that anybody likes.
All right. And just for the benefit of our viewers, in layman terms, how could this sliding of the rupee affect the common man? In what ways can it affect them?
Well, most of our goods in India are tradable within India, in the sense that most of the products that we consume, if you're talking of the common man, the lower down the order, the more the products are India made. So to that extent, the rupee slide doesn't really make that much of a difference. Also, the fact that the oil prices are softer is a big cushion. What it does do is, of course, it does make the import bill go costlier. So for industries planning to import larger amount, that is a problem. Exporters obviously will be at an advantage, and that is something good. Similarly, IT companies, you would expect them to show much better results because they book their earnings in dollar. So all companies which actually move on the basis of dollar market movement, mark their more revenue on dollars, they would be in a happier state.
All right.
So essentially, it is not something on which the common man per se would expect that, because of the rupee movement, inflation would tend to rise much.
All right. And very quickly, just talking about the markets, the Sensex, of course, dipping. We saw the markets dip about 600 points, like we pointed out in the past 2 days. Is this solely due to the rupee sliding, or are there other factors as well?
Yes, rupee was a very major factor because of which the markets did take a correction. But at the same time, today, there are reports that the AP Shah committee has apparently suggested that the treatment of the FIIs vis-a-vis their MAT taxation would actually be to the benefit of the FIIs. Now, if the government accepts that, then one could actually expect the market to look much more improved in the coming couple of days.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Shubhamoy, for joining us with those details, helping us understand the story further. We'll, of course, be keeping a close watch on the rupee and the markets as well. But staying with economics, both retail and wholesale prices are currently set to be at a historic low. But it seems not that when it comes to the prices of onion. In Delhi, consumers are buying onions at 80 rupees a kilo this week. And what's more, the situation is unlikely to get any better for the next 2 months at least. Here's a special report.
The central government is importing 10,000 tons of onions, a decision that is expected to reduce prices. Experts, however, say the expectation may be misplaced.
You will see that onion prices will remain on the higher side. In between, some softening might happen as soon as the imported onion starts becoming available in the market. But really, the prices will come to the normal level maybe only after, say, a gap of about 1.5 to 2 months, not before that.
In India's biggest onion market, Nashik, onions are selling at two-year high of 4,900 rupees a quintal. Maharashtra alone accounts for nearly 30% of onion production in the country. In July, retail inflation touched a record low of 3.78%. Wholesale inflation, on the other hand, was lower at minus 4.05%. Onions, however, still remained a scarce commodity as unseasonal rains pushed down supplies from 194 lakh tons in 2013-14 to 189 lakh tons in 2014-15. In the Rabi season between last October and March this year, onion production also declined from 28 lakh tons in July to 14 lakh tons in August. Latest reports now say the floods in the eastern states and a drought-like situation in western India have impacted vegetable crops.
Some of the perishable commodities like vegetables, if the vegetable crops go in some of the, because Bengal, for instance, is a high vegetable producing state. If they have to import from other states, then the overall price situation will be bad. So the prices will rise.
North India's biggest wholesale market for fruits and vegetables, Azadpur Mandi, is getting 1,000 tons of onions from Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Karnataka and Madhya Pradesh daily. It is also getting onions from Afghanistan. But prices are expected to rise further as shipments of fresh imports will take time to arrive. This is Krishnanand Tripathi's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And time for a quick break here, but still ahead of snap polls in Greece. Rebel MPs split from ruling party to form a new entity. We'll get you details in a bit.
One rank, one pension. A complicated, festering issue, repeatedly evading a solution. What makes OROP so difficult to bring to fruition? Watch The Big Picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha TV.
Welcome back. More national news. And the Gujarat High Court has stayed the state government's order making voting mandatory in civic polls. In a response to a petition filed by advocate K.R. Kosti, the court stayed the state government's notification of compulsory voting till final disposal of the case. The Gujarat government had planned to make voting mandatory in civic and panchayat elections to be held in October this year and also proposed to impose a fine of 100 rupees on those who did not vote.
Right to vote and electoral right, whether I want to vote or I want to refrain from voting. It is the electoral right, yet it cannot be made compulsorily because it violates the Article 14 as well as the 19(1)(g) of the Constitution of India.
And now let's get you more updates from across the country and nationwide. In a relief to the Maran brothers, the Supreme Court stayed the ED's proceedings to attach their assets in the Aircel Maxis deal. The ED had ordered provisional attachment of all the assets of Sun TV worth 742 crore rupees, allegedly linked to the deal under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Earlier, the Madras High Court had dismissed Maran's appeal seeking stay on the order. The Maharashtra government has increased security cover for activist Anna Hazare to Z category. The decision was taken after the activist received at least 2 threat letters this month. The letter also asked Hazare to stay put in his native Raliganj Siddhi village. Exiled Bangladeshi author Taslima Nasreen's visa was extended for another year by the Home Ministry. The decision was taken after the author requested the government to be allowed to continue her stay in India. Taslima Nasreen has been living in exile since she left Bangladesh in 1994 in the wake of threats to her by fundamentalist groups. Thousands of villagers left their homes as heavy rainfall continued to batter flood-hit Assam. The state has been receiving heavy rainfall for the past few days, resulting in floods in many areas. Over 3 lakh people have been affected due to the floods so far. The army was called in to assist administrative and provide relief to the victims. International news now, and tensions are high between North and South Korea as both countries exchanged gunfire along the border. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has now ordered frontline military units to enter a wartime state. South Korea too has put its military on high alert, ordering it to retaliate if there's any more provocation from the north.
War games on the Korea's borders. North and South Korea exchanged gunfire across their heavily fortified border on Thursday. Tension escalated when North Korea fired shells into the south to protest against anti-Pyongyang propaganda broadcasts. The south responded with a barrage of 29 artillery shells. In an emergency meeting, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ordered his troops onto a war footing from 5 p.m. on Friday. Pyongyang has also issued an ultimatum to Seoul to halt anti-North propaganda broadcast by Saturday afternoon or face military action.
조선인민군 총참모부는 20일 괴뢰 국방부에 40여로 재개한 대북 심리전 방송을 중지하고 모든 심리전 수단들을 전면적으로 철거하지 않는다면 그 즉시 강력한 군사적 행동으로 넘어가게 된다는 최후 통첩을 들이댄 바 있습니다.
Refusing to back down, a South Korean military official said the broadcasts would continue. President Park Geun-hye visited the military command post in Yongin, ordering the military to sternly retaliate if there were more provocations from North Korea.
군은 북한의 추가 도발에 대해서 한치의 빈틈도 없는 즉각 대응 태세를 유지하기를 바라고 또 상황이 발생했을 때는 선 조치 후 보고하기를 바랍니다.
The UN has expressed serious concerns over the fresh tensions. The US military, which has over 28,000 personnel in South Korea, also said it is closely monitoring the situation. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Over to Greece now, and rebel MPs from the governing Syriza party have announced their decision to split and form a new party. This after the Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras announced his decision to step down. The new party is called the Popular Unity Party and is currently the third largest in parliament. The opposition now has a shot at forming the next government or face snap elections.
Political circles in Greece are brewing with activity. Less than 24 hours after Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras resigned, rebels from his own left-wing Syriza party have formed a new outfit, the Popular Unity Party. 25 rebel Syriza MPs are believed to have joined the new party that will be led by former Energy Minister Panagiotis Lafazanis, who had strongly opposed Tsipras' handling of the bailout deal with European leaders.
Επιθυμούμε και δηλώνουμε ότι η επωνυμία της συγκροτούμενης κοινοβουλευτικής ομάδας είναι λαϊκή ενότητα. Αρχηγός και πρόεδρος της συγκροτούμενης κοινοβουλευτικής ομάδας είναι ο κύριος Παναγιώτης Λαφαζάνης του Γεωργίου, βουλευτής Β' Περιφέρειας Πειραιώς.
Tsipras had lost the support of several of his MPs who openly criticized his policies and negotiations on the bailout deal. The head of the main opposition New Democracy Party also met with Greece's president on Friday morning. His party has been given 3 days to prove its mandate and form a government. But with numbers unlikely to be on their side and not enough allies, the president could approve snap elections for 20th of September.
Να δούμε αν μπορούμε να βρούμε μια ουσιαστική σοβαρή πολιτική λύση από την παρούσα Βουλή, ώστε να αποφύγουμε αυτή τη στιγμή όλα αυτά τα αρνητικά τα οποία μπορεί να προκαλέσει για πάρα πολύ χρόνο η εκλογική αυτή διαδικασία, η οποία κατά τη γνώμη μου δεν βοηθάει σε τίποτα.
As for Tsipras, the snap elections will be a test for him as he tries to regain popularity among the Greeks. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
And here are more international news updates in Global Buzz. UNF leader Ranil Wickremesinghe took oath as Sri Lanka's Prime Minister today. It will be his fourth stint in the post. His party defeated the United People's Freedom Alliance by winning 106 seats in the 225-member parliament. The UPFA won 95 seats. The Macedonian government declared a state of emergency in 2 border regions to cope with growing numbers of migrants. More than 1,000 migrants arrived on Friday in the Greek town of Idomeni, hoping to cross into neighboring Macedonia. The army was called in to confront the refugees trying to reach Western Europe. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott is considering a formal request from the US for Australia to join air strikes against the Islamic State in Syria. The Royal Australian Air Force is already involved in bombing IS targets in Iraq, but its aerial role has so far been limited to refueling and intelligence gathering. All right, now some cricket action. And India piled up 393 runs in their first innings in the second test against Sri Lanka today. In reply, the hosts ended the day at 140 for 3, still trailing by 253 runs. The hosts lost opener Karunaratne early to Umesh Yadav, but Kumar Sangakkara and Kaushal Silva combined together for a 74-run second-wicket partnership. Sangakkara, playing in his last test, was caught on 32. Earlier, India added 74 runs to their overnight total. Wicketkeeper Riddhiman Saha's half-century was supported by Amit Mishra to help the visitors reach closer to the 400-run mark. Rangana Herath picked 4 wickets for the Lankans. And more cricket action and other news in Sportsbeat. In the Ashes series, Steven Smith's 100 helped Australia reach a total of 376 for 7 at lunch. Resuming the day at 287 for 3, Smith and Adam Voges put up a 143-run stand for the 4th wicket. Voges scored 76 runs. England made a comeback, taking Mitchell Marsh and Peter Neville and Mitchell Johnson cheaply. Moeen Ali took 3 wickets. In tennis, Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer moved to the quarterfinals of the Cincinnati Open. Top-seeded Novak Djokovic came back from a double break down to the 3rd set to defeat David Goffin 6-4, 2-6, 6-3. Defending champion Roger Federer cruised past Kevin Anderson 6-1, 6-1. British top seed Andy Murray and Stan Wawrinka also reached the quarterfinals. In another match, 14-time Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal missed out on the quarterfinal berth after losing to compatriot Feliciano Lopez. The 8th-seeded took the first set but was broken early in the second before losing the third in the tie-break. Nadal eventually lost 5-7, 6-4, 7-6 to miss out on a meeting with Roger Federer. And that's all we have for you on the news at 6. But coming up next is the big picture. Stay with us.